ready for action.
Because it keeps going like this. Keeps slowly going down.
I just sometimes adjust it or hold it. And then you got to twist it right here at the very bottom.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, it's tight, though. It's already tight as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, you can start whenever you're ready. We're live already? Okay, great. Good. Well, welcome again to another episode of Ready for Action. And I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a little bit of a change now moving forward. So we have John Casimir as our permanent co-host moving forward. We'll still do the same form or similar format, excuse me. So we'll have guests on periodically, but for the most part, a lot of our episodes will be me and John discussing current events. And that's going to be our home team moving forward. So we appreciate y'all's support and welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's good to be here. It's good to, talk about the things that are going on, right now, just because of everything that's just been changing in
Crazy
the world.
Year.
And yeah, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, crazy year, crazy time to be alive. But I mean, that fight, UFC 300 that we got to catch last week was insane. Max Holloway is that dude, bro. He's that dude. You saw everything, right? Start to finish?
Yeah, I watched the prelims, then I watched the early prelims, then the prelims, and then card.
Yeah.
But it was good. Even it was the prelims were at Erie, right?
Yeah, he was the feature prelim bout, I think.
Yeah.
And he was fighting the night, honestly.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to give it to him and Rakic, but then, Holloway and Gaethje happened. But Erie, it was funny. You see those memes that came out because the whole like build up. They tried to build a beef. You know how they always try to build a beef. So they were saying that Rakic was telling Yuri that he's not a real samurai because you know how he embodies that. He gets a little haircut and the ponytail and stuff, and walks around with swords. And so those memes coming out showing him getting pounded into the ground. He's like, "Okay, you're a samurai now." Dude, those were freaking hilarious. But that card. Top 5 all time.
Yeah, definitely.
Easy.
Definitely top 5. I don't know if it's like the best card ever because
people have been saying that.
Yeah, some people were saying that, but I'm just like, I don't know. There's been other cards that like weren't like stacked, but then they turned out to be great. You know
that Utah card was probably one of my. It still might be my favorite card because it was all finishes, I think. So from top to bottom, I think it was all subs and knockouts, and there were some crazy knockouts like Derek Lewis with the flying knee, and then Gaethje
was that
knocked
the balls,
out Poirier.
The balls are hot fight or no?
No. Okay, that was last July.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Gaethje Poirier rematch when he knocked him out with the head kick.
Gaethje Poirier. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That card stacked top to bottom, but I mean Holloway stole the show here. I think that's why a lot of people are saying greatest card of all time.
Yeah.
1 second left.
Yeah.
Calls the shot. He says, "Let's go in the middle." Boom, 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 boom. Puts him to sleep.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Like, you think it's a risky thing to do?
Of course.
Or
absolutely. But that's what makes him the BMF. Like that's what made it a BMF moment because But he's done that like 3 times. He did that with Poirier. He did that with Ricardo Lamas. Basically, 5 minutes left, or no, 10 seconds left. He knows he's already won. But he's like, you know what? Let's just bang it out because everyone loves to get a finish. He knows the crowd loves it, and Max is just a dog, bro. He's just a dog. But I didn't expect it to go like that because he's never slept anyone doing that strategy before. But crazy.
Yeah.
You looking forward to the fight tonight?
Yeah, man. I don't follow boxing as much just because it's such a different sport from basketball, football, all those. But, following it on Twitter or X and looking at the different memes and the different things that are going on.
He's been losing his mind.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that it's him trolling? I think I messaged you guys in the past. Like, is it trolling or is it like something's going on? We
were talking about this in my group chat with some of my boys yesterday. I feel like it's people around him. Like, he doesn't have good people around him because if it was like you or me in his camp, we'd be like, don't fucking say that, or like don't post that shit, like relax, just focus on the fight, train, because he's not even training. I mean, he was getting drunk. I saw something come out recently. There was this like Instagram model that's pretty famous that was in some Peso Pluma video. That's what blew her up. She exposed him for like trying to come on to her or something like that, like force himself onto her. Like, this was Wednesday, and he said in the text, "Oh, sorry, I was drunk." So this dude's getting drunk on a Tuesday, the week of his fight. He's not really taking it seriously. So I think it's the people around him. there's definitely got to be some drugs involved. I mean, he's hanging out with Oscar. Oscar's a little cokehead, so got to be drugs. And then trolling is kind of probably his justification for it, you know, like, oh, I'm just being a clown. I'm just selling the fight. So that's probably what he tells himself. But yeah, those clips have been like, I mean, you saw some of the things he said?
Yeah.
He was talking about like the Hollywood elite. Some of the stuff is, you know, we already know and we already can agree it's probably true. Yeah. Like he said some shit about the pedophilia, Hollywood elites, like having satanic rituals in the woods and shit like that. They tried to get him to do it. I feel like that stuff's probably true.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I think somebody at that age, I'm not too sure how old he is. Do you know by chance? I mean, he's got to be
24 or 25,
20s,
maybe.
You know?
Yeah.
But someone that's been fighting for that long since he was a child, you know, early adolescence. You know, I was thinking it could be trolling, you know, because you're young and you like to troll. When I was younger, I liked to troll in college, and you know, it didn't get me nowhere.
We still troll.
Yeah, sometimes, but you know, at that level, it's very detrimental to your image and everything. But you know, I saw a video yesterday.
Talking about like right now.
Yeah. I saw a video yesterday of him like in the weigh-ins. I don't know if you saw it, of him chugging a beer.
Dude.
And like for us, it's funny. You're like, wow, it's like, what's this guy doing? But I think professionally, like that's more of a disrespect to the sport.
1000%. That's how I felt about it. And then he missed weight. Like if you made weight and you're clowning around, kudos, you know, whatever. Like you were entitled to that. But he missed weight by 3 pounds. Although he did honor the bet that they made. You saw that bet? So every pound over, they agreed that whoever missed weight, by every pound they had to pay the other person $500K.
Yeah.
And Devin Haney confirmed that he paid him. So respect in that manner. Like at least he like followed through with it and paid him. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's just completely disrespect. But if you look at it in a broader sense, I feel like it's just another one of those things that the puppet masters are putting on to distract us. Because like, it's all a big. What's the phrase? It's like lights and something. It's
like theatrics and optics.
Yeah, to like distract you from shit that you actually should be focusing on, like all the stuff that's going on in the world. I think this fight is just another one of that. And another thing is, you remember how, I mean, you probably know this better than I do, but like one of the things that I've heard about Satan is that he has his people put the evil and the darkness right in front of your faces. Or it's like the way that Satan keeps people tricked or tricks people is by throwing it out right in front of their faces, but making it almost like desensitizing people to what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It's like he usually, like when you were younger, you would think that he would move in the shadows or, you know, try to do things undercover. But in all honesty, it's like he just does it right out in the open and let it be, you know, seen, because like you said, it desensitizes you, and then you're like, okay, it's normal now. All these things that are happening, it's normal. And that's what sin does. You know, that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to believe that it's normal. He wants you to be okay with it and then be able to, you know, live that lifestyle that he wants you to live, you know?
That's why it's like the things that Ryan's saying, it's all this crazy shit that, you know, Satan's behind it, but he's putting it right in our faces, and nothing's like, no one cares is what I'm trying to say. Like the stuff he was talking about, pedophilia in Hollywood, and it's not just Hollywood, it's government too. You know, there's people in the government, federal, state levels that are probably engaged in this kind of shitty, dirty behavior, the satanic rituals. Like he's saying all this stuff out loud on a platform that Ryan Garcia has, but how many of our friends are like actually like giving a fuck? You know, like we hear the guy say it, and then we're like, oh, that's whatever. What a guy. He's losing his mind. You know, he's crazy. But like he's throwing out this stuff right in front of our faces, and no one cares.
Well, see, that's the double-edged sword, where when people start exposing it, or when people start going into that, then people on the outside say, oh, this guy's losing his mind, he's going crazy, or he's possessed, because they did that to Jesus in the Bible. You know, whenever he came, they're like, oh, this guy's possessed by a demon, blah blah blah. And you're like, no, like. No, he's just telling you the truth, and you know, it could be this case with that, where, like you said, we agree on these points, but at the same time, I think the way that it's perceived, it has a lot to do with, you know, the person's character. Like if it was a CEO of a company that's respected and then started saying all these things, then, you know, you would be like, okay, this has a little bit more weight to it. Not to say that he doesn't have any, you know, weight in terms of his character, but I think that since he's starting to go down that path, a lot of people won't take these people seriously anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And
because we've been talking about this pedophilia in Hollywood and elite shit for like the last 3 years, and nothing's happened. You know, like there hasn't been any. The only thing that's happened is Epstein. Epstein's the only person that's taken the fall for it. We've seen no witch hunts. We've seen no takedowns of anyone that was mentioned on that list. Like all we've seen is the list come out, but what's happened because of that? Nothing. I mean, remember Tom Hanks fled to Greece when that shit first happened, like took off, and then now he's back in Hollywood, back in America, chilling. Like that's a clear sign of guilt to anyone that has eyes. But even a person like that reacted to the news and is probably on the flight logs and probably can easily be pursued. No one cares. Like the next thing comes up, and then we're all tuned in. You know, and so these big things that are right in front of our faces just goes out the window. Like even if we're talking about what we should be focusing on right now, that's impactful to us, Israel and Iran just, you know, they just started that whole situation. I mean, Iran came and attacked them, basically saying they attacked us first, we're retaliating. And then 2 days ago, Israel finally responded. And that could have a big impact on, you know, our lives, but people don't give a shit. People are worried about, you know, Haney Garcia, when Israel and Iran could easily cause something. I mean, you think we could get drafted?
You know, I talked about this with a couple of friends, and
you said it as a joke in the chat, and I was like, dude, don't play like that, man.
Yeah, we joke about it, but even in there, like, I think there's truth in every joke, right? And with that being said, like, I do believe that there could be a possibility of that happening. However, it would have to be like the last resort kind of thing where, you know, everything's going to hell, and you know, got to start the draft process again. But overall, like, regarding this, I think that a lot of it has to do with tensions from a long time ago. You know, I've watched research videos and read articles about the past of, you know, Israel, Iran, Israel, Palestine, because this first we've heard about it, you know, in the media, is the Palestine and the Israel thing.
Well, more specifically, Hamas, you know? Like
and that was in October.
That's the thing that I've noticed also, is it became the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's never been that. It's always been Israel-Hamas. But you know how they got to put a title to something like a conflict like this to get people emotionally invested. So that's why they've been using that. But it's always been Hamas. Yeah,
and you know, and before them, it was other groups too. You know, it was you know, other extremist groups. And so, you know, the same people that may have done 9/11 have an input in this, or an input in all these other things. And, you know, it goes very deep. You know, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories just because we could be here for hours. But, you know, in terms of our lives, you know, taking the hit for it. And, you know, I think that it does impact us. It may not impact us day to day. Sorry.
Hopefully, yeah.
Just because of, you know, how far it is, and, you know, everything that's being done behind the scenes, you know.
And I'm curious as to I don't know if you know, but like what is our agreement when we go into alliances with these countries? Like when it comes to wartime, like what is our committal? What have we given them to say, like, this is what we'll provide you? Obviously money, that's, everyone knows money. We've been given every country and their mom money for the last, you know, year, but what is our committal? So say Israel and Iran get out into a full-fledged war, whether that's proxy war or whether that's full-on warfare with infantry and everything. What is our committal? Are we going to send troops? Are we just continue to send aid? You know, like, what is our alliances with these countries? What do they entail? You know? You know any kind of detail?
I know that Israel and United States do have a lot, I believe. They're part of NATO, and so whichever countries are in that agreement or in that alliance, basically, have to kind of back each other up, you know. And I already know that I've read online that, you know, Russia says that they'll back Iran, and China's already invested, I believe, 400 million over the next 10 years.
China?
Yeah,
in Iran?
In Iran.
Oh my God,
and
dude.
so, like, when you have these countries that aren't a part of NATO, and that's why, obviously Russia doesn't want Ukraine to enter NATO because then they have that agreement to be able to be backed by us and all these other people. But like you said, it's like we've been giving money to all these countries. And, one thing that I have been reading and hearing different, heads talk about is either you're going to be an isolationist or you're going to be a part of them and really back them up, where you got one side that's like, no, I'm not gonna, we shouldn't get involved in it. That's how many miles across the world is that from us? Why are we worried about this person taking this person's land? It's not our land. And then you have other people who are like, no, it's like because of the humanitarianism of it. We need to be able to make sure these people just aren't killing other people because, like,
we're like cops almost.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's like, I don't know where you stand in that. Like, are you more on the side of like, we should get involved because of this sake, or no, we should stay out because of this sake?
Bro, it's a slippery slope, like logically I would say fuck them. We have our own problems we got to deal with. Every country has their own stuff to deal with. We have our own crisis at our own borders. We have countries nearby us that we already having issues with. So it's like part of me is just like, let them deal with their own bullshit and we focus on what we got to deal with on our side of the pond. But then at the same time, there's a lot of impact if a country like Israel were to lose their land, their government, their rights to a country or countries that are led by a form of jihadist, extremist, Muslim or Islamic teachings, because like I've talked to multiple people about this and I have different, I hear different things. Like I talk to my Muslim friends and they call people like Hamas or Hezbollah extremists, or they're misinterpreting the true religion of Islam. And then I hear from other people like, no, that's the true version of Islam is the one that they're pushing with Sharia law, with basically converting or killing all the non-Muslims. So based on that, if the latter is true, and if the Sharia law version of Islam is the real version of Islam, and that is what these countries and these terrorist organizations want to spread across the entire world, then yeah, we need to stand and provide help at the front lines of that conflict, or where they're trying to start their outreach from. So it's a slippery slope. Like I don't think there's just one answer, but in terms of local support, I would stand with, Israel, because I'm a Christian. That's our homeland, and, our religion stems from that region. I mean, Bethlehem, Jerusalem, all those places where Jesus walked are in Israel. So I would, but it's tough, bro, because, and people aren't talking about this, but the reason why so many of these innocent people in Palestine are dying is because Hamas is using hospitals and churches and mosques and schools as their base of operations, because they know exactly what's going to happen. If Israel attacks Hamas and Hamas's base of operations is underneath the hospital and they have to bomb the hospital to get to Hamas, to the outside world, it's just going to look like Israel's bombing the hospital, But they're smart. It's tactical. It's a way to get the world to look at Israel as these just villains, these murderers who are just out here killing women and children. And could they not do it? Yes, but then what's the risk for Israel? If Israel just does a ceasefire because Hamas is using innocents and civilian locations as base of operations, then what's the risk? The risk is Israel's strictly going to have to counterattack and defend against all the attacks from Hamas and these other organizations, which puts them in a bad position. That's a losing position. You can't just be on defense the whole time. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of where I stand on it. But dude, Iran is, I personally think they're dirty motherfuckers, because I don't know if you heard about the attack, but what happened was they sent a region of their army, like a department of their army. I think it's called IRG. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's like the Iranian regional, it's a group of their army, their branch of their military. They sent them with Hezbollah terrorists, Houthi terrorists, and other groups or militants from other terrorist groups together. It was a joint operation with terrorist organizations. Like, they're not even hiding their connection with these guys. They don't give a shit. Like, they don't give a shit. Who cares? They're out in the open, visually showing that they support all these terrorist groups like that. That was the attack that happened in Israel like a week ago. Yeah. It was a joint operation with terrorist organizations. So like a country like that, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Like Israel has every right to defend themselves against a country who's openly engaging with terrorist organizations. But isn't that crazy, bro? Like, imagine America going and attacking Mexico with terrorist organizations, or imagine the Mexican government aligning with cartels to go attack America or some shit like that. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, you know, and to go off of that and piggyback off of that topic, like there's so many different variables in the geopolitical realm. Yep. And you know, it's so easy to just focus on the here, which is, you know, U.S. And then there's so many, like you said, like there's so many problems that are going on here in our side of town with the border and with different things that are going on
socially and politically here.
So with that being said, like, you know, how do you think that's going to shape up come, you know, November? Like, we're in April, right? And so that's a couple months away, you know.
So I was reading, dude, it's so hard to trust sources nowadays. That's one thing I noticed. Like, I was trying to find a poll, like where are we polling right now, right? Biden versus Trump. Most websites I checked, and like one, for example, is ipsos.com. They're all saying it's a tie. I'm like, there's no fucking way it's a tie. No one is. I've talked to Democrats. I've talked to Republicans. No one likes Biden. No one thinks he's fit to run this country anymore, whether they're a Democrat or whether they're a libertarian or whatever the case is. There's no way that the polls can say it's a tie right now. So there's no doubt in my mind that as long as voting is all that counts, and voting is the only piece of what happens for this election, Trump wins. That being said, I don't think there's been any election where it's strictly just been voting. I think every election has been tampered with in some way, form, or fashion. So that's a hard if, but if we get a clean, fair election, Trump landslides him. Because even Democrats that I've talked to are like, I'm going to vote for Trump because, you know, Biden's a joke. So we'll see, man. It's going to be a crazy year, though. I mean, it's already 4 months in, and so much crazy stuff has already happened. I mean, we have wars going on. We have China and Russia doing joint exercises to do an invasion on Taiwan, potentially. So, you know, election years are always crazy. I mean, we'll see. But
yeah, man. And it is like, you know, I don't think that it's going to get better anytime soon. I think up until then, and probably, you know, over into here, you still may see some high tension. Whether, you know, this person wins, that person wins.
Hold on.
Is that good? So, you know, like whether this person wins or that person wins, you know, I think in the grand scheme of things, like overall, like it'll get better, right? But just now, it's gonna be tough with things like inflation. You got mortgage rates at all-time high.
Like 7 right now, or
7%.
7%.
Yesterday, right, I read a report that was at 7, God, like a top 7. And
I'm trying to buy a house, and there's no way I'm gonna do that right now. 8.
And I just know that, like, you know, that's just one part of the, you know, pie. And then you got gas, you got food prices. You know, one of my friends, he did a food price analysis. He's really good at budgets. He did a food price analysis of 2022 to now, and he said him and his wife were spending around $450-$500 on food and restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty good budget. You know, they're good with
that's
that.
It?
Yeah,
$450
to $500 in a month, right?
Yeah.
And then 2023 it went up about $250, so $650, and then now 2024 they're close to about $800, so $750, $800, and I know for me and my wife we're close. We're getting to about 600, you know, like we're at 500, 600, but it's just like, and that's just groceries, you know, that does not include eating out, you know.
I thought that was the eating out budget. Damn.
Yeah, that's just groceries for us.
Oh, bro, my groceries are way less than that.
Yeah, well, no, for him it was groceries and restaurant. For me, I spent.
That's not bad though. 800 for groceries and eating out. That's solid.
Yeah. But for me, mine was about 500, 550 for just groceries. And
that's about where I said 500.
Yeah, and I don't even have kids.
Yeah.
So I talk to people that do have kids, and I'm trying to prepare myself because I know that groceries are going to be even more expensive when you have 2 more mouths to feed, right? Yeah. And so, like, going into the election season, things start to ramp up. You got inflation at highs. I know the CPI report in January was saying that it was at 3.1. Excuse me. 3.1% inflation.
That's I feel like it's way more than that. Well, yeah. What does that mean, though, the CPI versus just the inflation rate?
So, like that. So, what the Fed wanted to do, right? The Fed Reserve basically, gets to set inflation rates and try to get it at a soft landing. That's what they're trying to do. But right now, January, basically prices are inflated to 3.1%, and that's across the board. That's food.
Is that 3.1% more than December?
Yeah. So
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because inflation was like at 9% last year.
Well, I'm not too sure on December, but I know that they want to be at 2%, right? I mean, obviously, a country's goal is to be under that. Even not 2% never existed, apparently, right? But a country's goal is not to have any inflation, right? If we're in a perfect world. And so January,
I don't know, but I feel like that percentage is hard to believe. If it's just 3.1%, I feel like they're lying.
I believe it is hard to believe because it should be higher. And I've listened to.
I mean, you could speak from experience. It's definitely higher. Just looking at like the shit we got to pay for.
Yeah. So then you have February. It came in at 3.2, and then you have March.
That's fucking bullshit.
March,
that's lies.
They eventually want it to come down, right?
But that's just they could put any numbers out if they want to. Like CPI is an organization. Any organization has the ability to get tampered with or, what's the word? Influenced, So we know it's way more than that.
So basically, though, it's the Fed's way of being able to understand, like, okay, like if it's going down, then they can sooner or later lower interest rates. But in March, which is last month, it came in at 3.5. So you can see an upward trajectory, slowly but surely. So, like, we're in April. I don't know what it's going to be at the end of April. We'll find out in May, right, for this month. And so if it's higher, that means interest rates aren't going down, right? So that means those mortgages are going to stay at 7.
Easy,
and they might even go a little higher. But then if they calculate it and it comes down, let's say in April it's at 3.0. Oh, it's going down. Good. We have a better chance of a softer landing than continuing these higher rate hikes, because that's what they were doing last year, those rate hikes all year, right?
But we're also seeing high prices too, so it's not just high rates, it's high rates and high prices, which is like the worst and a hard market to be in. Like if we had low house prices with high rates, it's a little different because then overall you're spending less, or the same thing, high prices, low interest rates, overall you're spending less, but everything is up. I mean, the houses over here are easily, I would say 40, some of them 50%, even more higher than where they were like last year or 2 years ago. Like the house I was looking at over there in the Heights, boomed. It's like 600 something. And when I was looking at it a couple of years ago, it was like 400 something. So prices have jumped up, but rates have gone up right with it. So so
the way it works, it's kind of like, the higher the interest rate, so right now, right, the higher the interest rate, so it continues to go, let's say it was at 4, 5, 6, now it's at 7. Eventually the home prices will start to stay kind of stagnant. Like that home that you see 650, it'll be at 650 for that 7%. Now if the interest rates come down and let's say it goes to 5%, 4%, then you have a more competitive market, and then people will start to price their homes a little lower because interest rates aren't as high anymore. People are willing to buy. And so now people are going to sell that 650 house for, let's say, 600 because now you have a 5% interest rate. So it's a better deal, right?
Can you imagine that we think 5% is low now? That's so crazy.
I know.
I remember like 3% and 2%, and now we're looking at 5%. Like that's the gold standard. Fucking crazy. But going back to the election, all that stuff does play a part, like the inflation, but that whoever wins, that's how they're going to spin the impact of all this stuff. Inflation, if Trump wins, inflation's going to be blamed on him. If Biden wins, inflation improvement. They're going to spin stories based for all the stuff that we just talked about, inflation, the prices of groceries, the prices of gas. The election it's another circus, like the outcome the theater involved in all of it. It's all going to swing one way or the other. Depends on who wins, and it's really depending on which party wins. That's usually how it always goes. So I still think Trump is going to landslide it as long as nothing crazy happens. But yeah, in terms of public opinion and public, what we're going to get, like what we're going to absorb from the news and stuff like that, it's all going to be one way or the other in terms of how they spin the results and then how they apply everything that we're seeing this year. It's all going to be pinned on someone, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
It all depends on who wins. But
yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, the whole, like we were talking about this earlier, but 2024 has been nuts, and it's been 4 months. And then you got Dubai having the heaviest rain in 75 years. And then so you and I talked about this. We know it's cloud seeding. They literally admitted to doing cloud seeding.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it logically too. It's like, have you ever seen rain in those countries?
No.
It's sand.
Yeah.
You see any plants growing? Like they bring plants in.
Exactly. Exactly, bro. And so I was looking it up earlier today, right? And I mean, I'm talking about all of the major networks and articles and journalists' websites. You're talking about Bloomberg, Reuters, Wired, New York Post, New York Times. Every single one I saw today, it's not cloud seeding, it's climate change. Do you really believe it's cloud seeding? Is Dubai using cloud seeding? Why, that's not true. Every single one was saying it's climate change. And a month ago, CNBC did an article about Dubai doing cloud seeding. Like CNBC is one of these major ones that also hides the truth a lot of the time. Yeah. They had a full published article about Dubai doing cloud seeding. But now when all this crazy ass flooding is happening, then all of a sudden it's not cloud seeding, it's climate change. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and play that video real quick?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. That's what happens when you try to play God. Like, how can you expect to control that?
I first of all, like logically speaking, so one thing for people to know is that I think very logically. It's gotten me in trouble. It's also helped me. But
facts, it does get you in trouble nowadays.
But when you think about it logically, like how is it possible to make clouds?
Dude, those are trees, bro. And they're like only the top of the tree is above water.
Yeah, that's 2 days ago, or no, 16. So a couple days ago.
Yeah, a few days ago.
I mean, when you look at Dubai too. Weren't they there at a certain point in the 2000s? They were making their own islands. You remember that? They were making so when you look at the aerial view of that country, they were making different little islands basically.
But where's the water coming from?
Well, the ocean's still there.
Oh, the ocean.
Yeah. So they would make that, it would be like, a part of the mainland, and then they would attach it, basically like an extension.
Like canal water through it, around it?
Yeah, basically. It's like a palm. They call it the Palm Islands, basically. It's supposed to be this big resort area, in the early 2000s and stuff. But then eventually what happens whenever you build things around water like that, it starts to come in, water starts to seep in, so the land started to basically just erode and weather over time. But when you look at it, it's like a great concept. But
so they're basically cutting the land mass in sections to make.
They would add. So they would like take trucks and add sand, and I don't know if they use sand, but I know that they would add to it. When you look at it, it's crazy because
that's the first I'm hearing about that.
They have so much money, like so these trillionaires.
They can whatever's above trillion is what they have, dude. They have so much money. This oil crap, like it's crazy. And then here, if we find oil, we don't get the rights to it. I was talking to someone about this recently. I think it was Greg at the ranch, and if they find oil. If you find oil, say you're like just strike oil, you're digging at the ranch or something like that, and you hit an oil well or a oil reservoir, you don't make any money off that. The government here already has the mineral rights to it, so you literally can't. Because like Beverly Hillbillies, the whole concept of the movie is that they found oil and got super rich because the government bought their land. It's not how it would work. Like crazy. I mean, I'm sure you could get some money off selling your land to them, like probably try and charge a premium to the state or the government, whoever's trying to buy it. But you don't get any money for that oil that's on your property. Now, I don't know if it's the same way over there, but they're making all of their money off of the oil they find over there. But I'm sure now it's all manufactured and it's all owned by, one or two few families. But it's insane, bro. Like if I my whole life I thought if I found oil in Texas, I'd be rich. I'd be a millionaire. But that's not the case.
That's insane. Yeah. When you go back to that, it's like I think we were talking a while back, and you had mentioned like, why pay this off? You're not going to own it. It doesn't matter. Even if you believe you own it, you're not going to own it. And so I did more digging into that and trying to understand. And similarly, like what you said regarding the oil that you find on land, if it's not yours, it's already someone else's. So it's the government. So say that, if you pay off your house, like,
property tax.
It is tax. But even then, like, you pay off your house, right? Mm-hmm. Say something catastrophic happens, and we go into wars, or we go into apocalypse, something like that. Like, at the end of the day, you're not going to own your house. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you even seen where, they have in New York City, where they have people that are coming from different countries. Mm-hmm. They're getting shipped there, and they're starting to induce these workers, they're classifying them as workers, trying to get the, people that own these houses to rent the houses out to them or let them stay with them for money, and that in itself is crazy as well, because it's like, well, then, you technically don't own your house, you don't really own anything, but.
Well, I mean, property tax is the biggest example of that. You pay off a house. You spend most people spend their whole life trying to pay off a house. You miss your property taxes for 2 months, they're going to take your house from you. Like foreclosure. Or I think it's foreclosure. And then they auction off your house as long as someone pays off your outstanding tax. So basically they get the lien on your house as long as they pay out your outstanding taxes.
It's like Monopoly. You play Monopoly?
So, they have literally auctions every month, and I was thinking about going to them, but you're competing against like huge companies, Open Door Goes, Redfin, like all these major wholesalers over there. So it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to compete with someone like that? And if a house hits, that's another thing I've learned about sales too, like buying businesses, buying houses, anything. If it hit the market already, it's probably not a desirable house, or it's probably not a desirable piece of property, because the best deals are always off market. Like any person I talk to, I've talked to people that own convenience stores, I've talked to people that are in real estate. The best deals they ever get are off market. They convince someone to sell their thing, whatever it is, whether it's a store or a house. They'll convince someone who had no intention of selling, or like wasn't on the market, wasn't like starting to sell their house with a realtor. That's how you get the best deals. So like, even if we wanted to go into real estate, the best thing would be to find an area or find a target market, reach out to them, start calling them. So like what one of my friends does, I'm not going to put out all his business out there, but what he does, kind of like a base strategy, is they'll find areas where they know that the income is low, or like it's low income areas, and they'll start. But like if it's an area that's gentrifying, for example, so low income, but it's on its way up, they'll start calling people, because there's easy ways to get that kind of information. You can get contact information for pretty much anyone in America. Right. So they get contact information for these neighborhoods, start calling them. So almost like cold calling, and basically just selling them on getting, trying to sell their house. Like, I don't even know how you'd start that. How you start that conversation with someone who has no intention to sell. It's like, hey, you thinking about selling your house, buddy? Or, hey, you know what? You should move to Florida. I think, Florida would do you well. Like, how do you start a conversation like that? Someone who doesn't even know who you are, and you're trying to buy their house from you. But the point is, any kind of thing you're going to get, the best deal you're going to get is off market. So even for these houses where people don't pay off their taxes and you go to the auction, even those won't be the best houses, because if they're but you can find some deals there too, you know what I'm saying? That's probably your best bet, honestly. If you want to get into real estate without doing the cold calling and trying to sell people on selling their houses, is the auction strategy, because that way you pay the least amount of money for property, because all you have to do is pay off the outstanding lien. But the catch is, if they have an outstanding mortgage, you didn't assume that mortgage as well. I'm pretty sure, like, if, say, someone has still $100,000 left on their mortgage, they fail to pay their property taxes, the bank takes their house and auctions it out, someone's got to pay that money, right? So I'm pretty sure, but I don't know, but I'm pretty sure if you pay the outstanding taxes, buy that house, you also assume the loan. So your name becomes first lien, but you also take on that mortgage. So the best bet is to find a house where it's completely paid off and someone just forgot or couldn't pay their property taxes.
Yeah, that's crazy because I know during the pandemic, 4 years ago, all these major corporations were buying up homes because people weren't working, people weren't able to pay for their homes. So you even saw it in 2008 during the big crash. The housing bubble popped and everything, foreclosed. And so what these companies did, like you got companies like BlackRock, you got all these different companies that manage $1 trillion assets, and they buy these homes for 100, 200 grand. That's nothing to them. To the normal person, that's a big chunk of money. But they're buying. I remember I saw a chart of like the historical data on how much they would buy like each year, and it was like 90s, then 2000s, and then whenever like 2008 it went up, and then like started to go down a little bit. And then during the pandemic, 2021, 22, that's why it was so hard to buy a house during that time. It's not that interest rates were high.
Yeah, interest rates were low.
They were the lowest at that point.
Sharks kept buying houses cash.
Exactly.
They'd pull up with a briefcase and be like,
and these people, they would these companies, the mortgage rates were at a low, and the houses were fairly priced. I would say a little bit higher than normal, but that's because they could do that. And so they would just buy them out. I remember I was looking for a house in 2021, and thank God I didn't ever get one, just because every time I would always get outbid. And I was like, dude, like how? And it's like, oh, these people are either buying it cash. Like I didn't have 250, 300 grand at the time.
Can you imagine having that much money, bro?
And these people, or these corporations, just buy it, and then they rent it out. And so then you get 10, or they have 10 houses, they rent it out, boom, they'll have that for the rest of their generation, if that makes sense. So it's sad to see that's the way it happens. But then again, that's capitalism.
That's how it works, man.
That's capitalism.
Yeah, they made that money. They're allowed to spend it however the hell they want. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, life would be so different if we had cash like that, dude.
Yeah.
Like our day to day would be so different. I thought about that recently. It's like, if I had, because I have goals of financial goals, right? And I have certain numbers that I've put down on paper to say like, this would put me here, and this would put me here. And I also just started meditating on what life would be like. Kind of like, what would I do if I had this amount of money, and I had this amount of income, and I had this amount of steady cash flow? What would my day to day look like? Completely different, bro. Like I would wake up thinking, I would have a completely different thought process than how I have now. I would approach the day completely differently. I would be able to go do things that I want to do that I just don't have time for because I have other obligations. I have other things I have to do. I have savings I have to do. I have a limited amount of spending I can do, versus where if I had free reign to spend, my actions would be completely different. Like the people who aren't insane, that's the way to put it, because money, makes you more of who you are. So the people who are insane, it's going to make them crazy. They'll go out and spend money on outlandish crap and, party all the time and stuff like that. If you have your head on straight and you get a lot of money, it just opens up the doors for you to go do more things that you've been wanting to do, or put more energy into things that you love to do. That's the benefit of it. So it's like, when I see all these people with all this bread, I can't even knock it. I'm not going to be a hater. I'm like, they did their thing, and now they get to do that. They get to wake up every day and pursue, these aspects of life that we don't get to.
Yeah, with that though, it's like you still can get there, and that's the biggest thing that I've been learning is like financial freedom, and one commodity that's bigger than money in itself is time. And so that's one thing that I've been watching videos of these successful people. They're 50, 60 years old, which it's not old, right? 50, 60 is not old, but they're at a place where
pretty old.
where they're financially free to do these things, right? Like of course, me and you, whenever you get married and with your wife and kids, you would want to be able to have that freedom to wake up, hang out with your kids, hang out with your family, do stuff, right? Because that's what is most important is time. And so the way I used to look at it was like, man, if I had $1 million, if I had $2 million, or I think I think I read a study that Gen Xers and Gen Zers, they believe they need you need 1.46 million, I believe, or 1.5 million in retirement savings to be able to live comfortably, right? And so I'm like, okay, so in my mind, I think, okay, I need to make 1.5 in the bank. Okay, cool, I'm good. Well, not necessarily, because again, going back to that, we won't own anything, right? I used to, I do believe that that's a sucky way to look at it, because for me, it's like, yes, I'm not here to own anything, but to manage what God's given us, right? And I believe that He told us to be good stewards with what we've been given, what we've been blessed with, right? That's why He gives some more, He gives some less, or He gives you whatever He believes is necessary for you. And so it's like, in that, it's like, yes, we don't own anything, right? This house, like, we don't really own it, because we're not going to take it when we die, right? We're looking towards a greater future, of course. But with that being said, so that gives me some peace, some comfortability, that it's like, yeah, I'm not going to own anything. So if the government says I'm not going to own anything, and I'll be okay with it, yeah, okay, I came into this world with nothing, I'm going to leave it with nothing, but with, Jesus. And so I think that with all of it, with all those things being given to us, it's good to look at it in a way that you are content where you are now. Because if you're not content where you are now, then you're not going to be content whenever you're a millionaire and
Very
you have
true.
a Lamborghini or a Ferrari.
Yeah.
I know you like fast cars, and you
Love
like,
it, bro.
you like
Love
shoes,
cars.
and you like these things, right?
All of that stuff.
And my thing is like, yeah, I'm going to be happy for about 2 days, and then I'm like, okay, I want a new color, or I want to get the new shoe, or something like that.
That's facts, bro. I was actually thinking about that today. I was praying earlier today, and I was just thanking, because that's something I fail to do a lot, is like, I tend to look at what's next rather than what I already have a lot. And like, you can look forward to the future. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you got to also be like cognizant of what you already have, which I have been very bad at. So I'm trying to get better at that, because you're damn right. Like, we're so blessed, and that we have so much to be grateful for right now, which we have to remember that, which, we don't. But I mean, we got an education, we have a house, we have family, we have good people around us. We have so many blessings that most people in the world don't have. And that's another thing too. We get distracted by the environment that we're in, that we forget that most people don't have the environment that we're in. Most people are below the poverty line, or at the poverty line or below it in America. Most people have shitty families. Most people have so much crap that they have to deal with day in, day out. And all the reason why we forget is because we have good families. We have good people around us. So we have people who are succeeding. We have people who are probably doing better than us in many cases, that are in our circle. So when we look around us, all we see is good things, that we forget that that's not the standard. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense, but like, yeah, we're deluded by our close environment, that we think that that's the like, we're the standard and we can only go up from here, or we're the lowest, and there's all these things that we have to attain. Whereas if you look at it from a bird's eye view, we're probably in like the top 5-10% of America compared to the rest of the country. So perspective is huge when you're talking about what you're talking about, like being content, being grateful with all the stuff that we have right now.
I mean, to take it on a more grander scale, I was watching a video yesterday, and it was about investments by age, right? And I was telling you, like, oh, by 20 years old, you should kind of be here, 30, 40, 50, all that stuff. And the guy was saying, like, the global, median income, right? Global, when you take everything into consideration, it's like $8,000, global, right?
That's insane.
But then you take it into U.S. He said the U.S. median is $93,000.
That's the median now?
Yeah. So when you look at that, like, that's a huge jump from the world. So that puts you close in the 10% range of like the world in terms of where you are, economically. And for us to be given the privilege to be born where we were born, whether it be in, crappy situations or situations where you were extremely blessed, right? You still are blessed to be here in America, because like there's these other countries where it's not like that. And again, that's why we have a big, I think there's both sides to it, but I think that's one of the biggest reasons why, I think it gets a lot of slack, but people come from other countries to really get a better opportunity here, because they see what it's like here, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. Whether it's people from China, Iran, right? There's people from South America, Latin America, obviously people have different ulterior motives, but I do think that, like, think about it. If you're in, let's say, Ecuador or some country like Cuba where it's like ran as a communistic state, you'd look at us and be like, man, I want to go there. I want to be able to be this person or do these things, But yeah, like you said, I often catch myself. I always think one thing I'll leave this on is I remember CJ Stroud, the GOAT himself, said that.
Yeah, so we can talk about him another time, but that dude, I've seen some things that I'm not too happy with, like the way he. We'll talk about that later. But go ahead.
But he didn't make this quote. I've heard it before, but he said it, and I was like reminded of it.
Excuse me.
He said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dang, you're right." Because before that, I mean, I needed to be reminded of that, and I was like comparing myself to this person. This person's making this. This person already has this. This person is my age. This person's younger than me.
Yeah.
But like, look at what you have been given, and being thankful to the Lord about it, and surrendering it back over to Him. Because I'm married, happily married, and being able to be where I'm at, it's a blessing in itself. And if I'm not content now, I'm not going to be content in 10 years if I have this or XYZ.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I'll leave that at.
Yeah, I wanted to also talk about speaking about America just in general, but man, I'm so worried about this next generation. And I've told this to so many people, and people agree with me, people disagree with me. People who are younger than me say like, oh no, they're super smart. They're probably smarter than everyone. People older than me are like, yeah, absolutely. I'm so worried about our generation. Like, it's so funny. But dude, so just listen to this statistic. 26% of public school students were chronically absent last year in public school. 26%. And I think I don't remember what the definition of chronically absent is, but I mean, you can figure it out. Like, that's basically being absent for a majority of the school year.
Yeah.
26%. And then our numbers of kids that don't graduate high school, and this was in 2021, so I can only assume it's gotten worse. 20% of kids weren't graduating high school in America.
20%?
20%.
Jeez.
1 in 5 don't graduate. That is crazy. And we're supposed to be the gold standard. Like you said, you're absolutely right. All these people are trying to move to America for a damn reason. But our own kids can't even appreciate what they have. And it's sad, dude. It's sad. Like, I'm not huge on education, secondary education. Like, if you go to college, great. But I don't think you have to go to college anymore. After I got older and I see all these people who are successful without going to college, I understand that, it's a preference now. College is college. But public school, like learning basic stuff, like basic math, basic history, basic sciences, these are things you need. You got to have this kind of stuff to be able to be a functioning member of society and contribute to like social and economic growth in your area, environment, whatever the case is. And dude, these kids, and then you got to think, out of the 80% that do graduate, right? How many are getting assisted? How many are being able to graduate with loopholes that their teachers or the school system or their board finds to be able to bump their numbers up? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's sad, dude. I mean, what do you think? How are you looking forward to our next generations?
I mean, honestly, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I mean, we have a video that I want to look at real quick, but I think that ultimately it stems from the parenting. I know I've seen parenting done right. I've seen parenting done wrong, and I kind of see in the middle as well. But overall, like, I really believe it stems from the parents, how they raise their child, what they teach them, what they give them, how they interact with them. I think that has the biggest impression on a child, because you were a child once, and who did you look up to? You looked up to your dad. I looked up to my dad. And for those that weren't able to, they looked up to someone, right? They looked up to mom, or they looked up to a role model, right? And that's really what defines you at that age, and it leaves an impression on you. So I think, for, like you said, those kids that aren't graduating, it could be for unforeseen reasons that we don't know, but 26% absent.
Crazy.
I mean, that has to stem more like either the kids are
and that's chronically absent, so that's not like absence or people who are tardy in general at all. It's
so I mean, what I'm taking from that is it seems like it's on purpose. It's like they're absent because they want to be. So I really think that a lot of it has to do with the parenting, whether the parenting's not involved, which is sad. I've seen that. You've seen that. Or the kids, there are circumstances where the parents are good and they raise them, they try to raise them in a great way, but the kid often revolts or goes against their parents. So
what's this video here? When is this?
This one, this is I don't know if you saw it. It's like school. It was caught. Okay. Yeah. You play it. Yeah, the kid was caught hitting the teacher.
I haven't seen this one.
I mean, you can see.
What the hell is wrong with her neck?
I don't know. I couldn't tell what that is.
What is that?
If she has a scarf or a mask, but I mean, I don't know why. Why this? It's obviously a male, student hitting the teacher, and we don't know I don't know the exact reasons why. Maybe they do, but when you see stuff like that, that would have never flied back in the 50s and 60s, and and
dancing and joking with her. Yeah, that's.
I mean, that would have never flew back then.
Yeah, of course.
But then again, that would not.
I mean, shit like that happens. It's been happening, but I'm sure it's way more widespread now, and people are putting it out on the internet like this. Like now, it's like, let's look for a viral moment. So I'm gonna go stick my teacher in the face. Yeah, that's.
But then terrible. Again, let's be honest, you see a lot of these kinds of clips, right? They're more prevalent now, and the thing is, it's mostly because of the parenting as well. How the child is brought up, how they're introduced to these different things, whether it be internet, whether it be just these different societal factors, and so it's overall sad, and it makes you wonder, because I also saw the other side of it too, where I was talking to one of my my patient's brother, right? I think he is in high school, so he's about to graduate, and we were kind of talking about our childhood, and they're immigrants from I think Pakistan, and so he was telling me how they came over here and they had to kind of Americanize themselves and get used to the schooling here and all that stuff, and so. He had mentioned that whenever he was in 9th grade, 10th grade, he was here. They came around 7th grade, I believe, for him. And he was here in 9th grade, 10th grade. That's when the pandemic was in 2020, right? And so he didn't really go to school, during that year,
Yeah.
We had to work, right? Yeah. But, children in school, they were at home.
They were at home, yeah.
We wish we had that. We would be playing Call of Duty all day.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
actually, yeah.
So he was telling me how he is grateful for that time because he talks to other people that are in school, like some of his friends or peers, and he says that they're soft, and I'm like, wait, why do you?
What do you mean?
Yeah, so I was like, what do you mean by that? Why do you say that? It's like they just can't take a joke. They're very sensitive nowadays, and you see a lot of kids nowadays sensitive, like their feelings and all this other stuff.
Kids, look at adults.
Adults, yeah.
Bro, that's just people in general. Right. Americans are pussies right now.
Kids are more understandable because they're still developing, right?
Yeah.
And so he was talking about all these feelings and stuff like that. And he said that he was thankful for the pandemic because whenever he was playing games, like how in Call of Duty or in whatever those games you have those chat lobbies and they just go in.
Oh, dude,
man, they go in. I know when I was in 8th grade, 9th grade,
some of the darkest shit I've ever heard is in those fucking
15 years ago. Yeah, 15 years ago.
That's you want to know what the racists are? Go to a Call of Duty. Go to a Call of Duty lobby.
Like that. And so
holy shit.
He was saying that prepared him, and he was thankful for those times because he believes that he's not soft because of those times. I was like, yeah, I do see it because. Whenever
we need to bring back bullying. We need to bring back bullying. I've seen some videos coming out. I'm like, why was this kid not bullied? Oh my god, yeah.
No, he was saying how, that helped prepare him for talking to other peers and stuff. And so I thought about my time whenever I was in 9th grade, 8th grade, and that was a while back, now. But it did the same things for me. I would hear stuff, I would troll back, and I would hear things, and I'm like, man,
Well, I got bullied when I was a kid. Absolutely, I got bullied. But from that, I learned how to bully back. So, and then it just became shit talking. It wasn't even bullying at that point. First, I would say I got bullied, or I took it as bullying. At first, I would kind of take it that way. But then after a few months of it, I was like, oh shit, you know what? I'm gonna talk shit back. And then after that, it just became like banter, you know. And banter is my favorite part of conversation. Like when I'm joking around with my boys, that's my favorite type of conversation, was when we're just fucking around talking shit, you know. So bring back bullying and these kids will be saved. But how are we doing on time? What's the time right now? About to be an hour? Okay, cool. All right, then, yeah, we have a couple more things we could talk about, but I think we'll go ahead and wrap for today, just because, you know, we have time and we have other obligations we got to get to. But awesome, bro. Episode 1 in the books.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
New co-host in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, well, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. We log.